Right. Hello, welcome. We're just going to give it a minute for some people to join. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining. See some familiar names here. Hi, Janine. All right. I'm going to give it just 30 more seconds. All right, I think we'll get started. Hello, welcome to our Yale School of Management MBA for Executives webinar. My name is Liz Lewis, and I serve as the Associate Director of Admissions for the MBA for Executives program. I'm joined by my colleague, Emily, who may be answering some questions as well. She is another Associate Director on our admissions team. So thank you for being here today, Emily. And thank you all to our attendees for being here today as well. We're really excited to bring you this next webinar in our Ask an EMBA series with a panel of extraordinary alumni. Over the next 45 minutes or so, our panelists are going to discuss their experiences as women in the Yale MBA for Executives program and beyond, including the impact of business school education on their careers, creating balance in their busy lives, navigating difficult conversations, and what being a leader for business and society means to them. We look forward to hearing their stories, and hopefully we'll have a few minutes at the end of the session to field some questions from you as well for our panelists. And so feel free to add those to the Q&A at any time, and we'll get to those later on. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to our panelists. So please introduce yourselves, your name, your class year, and area of focus. If you can share your location currently, and if it's different from where you were during the time of the program. And then, of course, in the tradition of our panel of peers or POP sessions, please include something, one thing that we can't learn about you from Googling you, social media, or from your LinkedIn. Christine, would you please kick it off?
Yes, thank you, Liz. Welcome, everyone. Super excited to be here and to answer any questions. My name is Christine Lemlung. I'm in the EMBA class of 21 in the healthcare tract. I'm a physician. I'll probably go a little bit more into my background when we talk later in the session. I am in Colorado and was in Colorado during the EMBA program, so also super happy to talk about what it was like to travel and to travel from a little bit of a distance. Pop question. I was super fortunate. This was before before doing my startup. I love to travel internationally and do adventure type travel. So I summited Kilimanjaro a handful of years ago, which was probably one of the highlights of my trips in the past. So happy to be here.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Erica.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks for having me. So hi and welcome. My name is Erica Goldstein. I graduated in 2024 and I had a focus in sustainability. And I work for Otis Elevator Company. I lead the modernization strategy. During the program and today, I live in Easton, Connecticut, which is the Christmas tree capital of our state. So fun fact about me, while I may not have summited Mount Kilimanjaro, I have probably shot the distance of Mount Kilimanjaro. So one fun fact about me is that when people ask to go on my shopping excursions, I have a list of prerequisites and I have to give them a disclaimer. So I need to let them know that it's an all-day event. I'm only going to stop for bathroom breaks, and maybe we have time for water and champagne, of course. And thanks. I'm happy to answer any questions you have today.
I love that so much, and I think I might have to join you, Erica. Jen, how about you?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. My name is Jen Johnson. I am from the EMBA class of 2022. I was in the asset management track, and I am currently living in Charleston, South Carolina, but during the program, I was based in Boston. And my fun fact is that I previously had been super into golf and playing a ton. And so when I was living in Massachusetts, the country club I was a member at, I was back-to-back club champion a couple years in 2020 and 2021.
That's amazing, Jen. Thank you so much for sharing. So now I'm going to ask each of you to share a little bit more about your stories. So thinking about your EMBA journey, what inspired you to consider an EMBA program? Looking back to when you were considering an MBA, and similar to how many of our attendees likely feel today, um, you might uh, you might have experienced some doubts or even some anxiety about going back to school or entering an intensive program. Can you reflect back on those days and talk about how you tackled those concerns and overcame them to finally apply and enroll? And what attracted you specifically to this program? Christine, would you start with that one?
Yes, so much there. So as I mentioned, I'm a physician. At the time that I was looking at applying to a program, I had actually been out and practiced for several years. I actually started and founded a hospital medicine program that I was running here in Colorado. I loved it. We were growing. So for me, it wasn't a matter of being unhappy with my job, but I knew that I wanted to do something more in my career because I had achieved what I wanted to by starting the hospital medicine group. As a physician, and I think as a female physician, we're often sort of put to the side and said, "Oh, you can't do anything bigger in healthcare. Just go treat patients. You don't understand the finances or the business aspect of healthcare." So I thought getting an MBA would be another tool in my tool belt. And so started looking around at programs, though, knowing that the next step in my career was still going to be within the healthcare sector. I didn't want to go to an EMBA program or an MBA program that was purely just for healthcare professionals. I tell people I wanted to meet real people. I've been around healthcare professionals my entire life. And so what I loved about Yale was that at the time, I know that it's changed a little bit now, but with the 3 different tracks, we were still doing a full blown, it wasn't a watered down program. We were going to be in there with all the asset management people having to grind away at these classes. And I really wanted to be in an environment where, I was going to be tested and really feel like it was going to be worthwhile. I looked at 3 different programs, and I think I went to an event that you all hosted for women. And I remember sitting around and meeting 70 other women that day thinking, these women are incredible. I'll never get in. Like, there's just not mathematically a chance that I'm going to get in. And I think I was inspired by the quality of people that were there. The program that day was so fantastic. So I knew that was going to be my top choice. And so I was super excited when I get in. I guess I would say you'll never get over the doubt about whether or not you're going to be able to do it. That'll sit with you, but you'll hear as we go through. I think you just need to make the leap of faith. And obviously I'll talk more for anyone that has questions about the fact that I came from healthcare. I didn't have a strong finance background. I am an older student, and definitely was an older student at the time. I was traveling, so there were a lot of other barriers that were there that I'm happy to talk about as well. But it was definitely one of the best decisions that I made.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Christine. Erica.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, I always wanted to pursue an MBA. And my journey was maybe a little bit delayed because I was moving. So again, I've been working for Otis Elevator Company now for 21 years. So I was moving every 2 to 3 years. And prior to even thinking about the MBA, I was actually living overseas. I did 3 back-to-back overseas assignments. So when I finally got home, we were unfortunately in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic, but I had the feeling that it was the right time. It was 2021. I started my research, and I had this list of requirements that came up, probably similar to all of you, about 5 schools. And then I started to shortlist it really based on other factors. I wanted to be in person. I thought that was really important for me. Especially coming off of COVID. Luckily for me, I do live in Connecticut, so I did have access to some really great schools. But I made a list of what I really wanted to get out of the school. But really, the turning point for me was when I started to compare the content of each program and the mission. And Yale stood out to me for a couple of reasons. I liked the format and the focus area around sustainability. At the time at Otis, I was working as field operations, so think about construction, and you're getting logistics done. So I thought that would help me tremendously. And it also appealed to me personally, but professionally, Professionally, obviously, I wanted to do something different. I had been in this field role. I call myself, Home Alone. You think about Macaulay Culkin. That's the only actor that's the only movie you can see him in. But I also was in a similar role. I was doing field operations and I'd done it for so long that I felt like it was limiting me. So going for the MBA was really important for me to kind of distinguish myself. But really, the mission of creating leaders for business and society was unique and very important for me. And I lived outside of the US during some pretty trying times. So you can imagine, like, really wanted to come back in full force and figure out how do I make myself a better leader by while still, being in this business environment. I also, like the other women, I attended various webinars and I learned so much more about the program. The faculty was amazing. I got to sit into a class virtually and then even met some of my potential cohorts. So it was at that time I committed. I focused my efforts. I created a short list, but I knew that I could only have enough time to focus on one application. So it was Yale. I applied in the first round. And, luckily I didn't have to go with plan B because I was accepted. But of course, I think everyone's going to have doubts and concerns about the program. I haven't been in school for over 20 years and I had a full-time job and I was traveling a lot, but I also had the opportunity to hear from alumni and we have 11,000 alumni in the EMBA program. So I figured if they can do it, I can do it. And while it's going to be tough, it's attainable and it's achievable. So I kind of got out of my own way and I just focused on taking the first step, which was getting into the school.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Thanks. Jen.
Yeah, thank you. So for me, I really wanted to get an EMBA because I was not willing to drop out of the workforce and go into a full-time program, but wanted the MBA to elevate my career. I've been working in finance, as you might have suspected, because I'm in the asset management track. And I really just wanted to kind of accelerate things for myself, but stay within the field. So I had narrowed my search down to two schools that I was really considering, and I started to attend events in person with some of the alumni that had attended both programs. And what really made a difference for me was when I decided to visit Yale's campus for an in-person day where you get to sit in on the classes and meet some of the current students. And I left that day just knowing that Yale was going to be the right place for me. I love the sense of community from that I felt from everyone there. So across from like the professors, the students, even the admissions team, it was really clear that there was a common thread across all the people who chose to be at Yale. And it was the type of respectful culture that I really personally thrive in, and I wanted to be a part of it. So I ended up only applying to Yale, and luckily for me, I got in. Um, One of the things I was a bit hesitant on was just the time commitment, and I was unsure if I was going to be able to balance a demanding job and a demanding curriculum. So I had a lot of conversations with people who had gone through the programs and graduated or were currently in the program and got a really good idea of what kind of a workload to expect. And I kind of overcame that hurdle just through talking to other folks about it. So anyways, yeah, it was a very transformative experience for me. So I'm very glad that I did it.
Amazing. Thank you. And you all mentioned how impactful these events were. Everyone watching today, you're attending an event now, but coming to campus, as they've mentioned, is always great too. We have a number of events on our website. Highly recommend, learning more about our community in that way. Hearing from students in person and attending a class is always a great way to learn more about us and see how it feels to be part of the program. And Jen, something that you've kind of already touched on that feel free to answer, but I'm going to actually throw it over to Christine first. We all know that making another commitment to an already full life requires incredible focus, intention, and sacrifice. What were some of the other commitments you had while you were in the program? And how did you think about time and readiness when you were weighing your decision to enroll?
Yeah. And I see that there was a question about that in the chat as well. I'm not going to lie. I mean, again, the program that you're doing with the EMBA is the same program that the on-campus I only have to go to school. I don't have a job. Students are doing. So that being said, don't take it lightly. However, it is doable. I mean, that is, as Jen was touching on, the great thing about this cohort is you're all working and going to school. And so it's that sisterhood, brotherhood of being in the trenches together and sort of lifting yourself up. So again, I was running from the commitment standpoint, I had to travel. So Colorado to Hartford or to what is that, Windsor Locks. There's only one direct flight if I didn't want to spend a whole day traveling. But what it meant for me is in order to make sure that I would get in to be ready for class the next day, I would fly in the day before and the flight landed at 12:30 midnight so that I would be there. And then Thursday would be sort of my reading catch up day before classes started on Friday. And so every other week I would just block that schedule off. My hospitalist group, when I told them that I was going back to school, I was still doing all of my shifts as a hospitalist, still running the company. And that was sort of the time that I dedicated to being on campus. I had developed a great leadership team that sort of took over calls and everything else when I was off campus. But then you just have to be very intentional about, this is when I'm going to do work. This is how I'm going to lean into helping other people. You'll have teams throughout the program. You're going to have a group that you're working with, and just be very open with your team on, this is what's going on in my life. I need you to help pick up during this period of time, and I'm going to pick up at other times. I would say, the one thing, it sort of goes into one of the questions there, that I didn't predict is that COVID would happen. So we started in 2019, and obviously March of 2020, I actually had a gear bag that I left at the hotel so that I didn't have to schlep all my shampoo and everything back every other week. I left, campus that week thinking that I would be back in 2 weeks, and I didn't get my gear bag until graduation of 21 because, campus shut down and we went hybrid. And I think it's a testament to Yale how quickly they were able to adapt and still make the program beneficial for us being online. We all sort of, our class wonders what it would have been like to be able to continue to go in person during that period of time. But for me, I was going to school for a time, running a hospital medicine program. And that program was basically on the front lines of a pandemic where, no one knew what was going on. So I will not lie that is a super stressful period of time that I look back on. And I would say, not even with the pandemic, the thing that you'll find is that, and you've heard this before as men, right? You're stronger than you think you are. You're going to be able to do this. You're going to be so proud of yourself when you get through it. And then the last thing I would say, the mistake that I made is I did get too worried about classwork. It's sort of just an OCD part of mine. I think I was too worried about doing well in class and get what you need from class, but don't sweat the grades. Go there for the experience, learn what you need to learn, but sort of dial it back on needing to get the best grade in the class too would be one of the ways that you can sort of parlay that a little bit better, but you'll be able to do it. But make sure you ask for help when you need it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, Christine. So I'll only add just a few things here. So again, I at this point, so I'm pretty, type A personality. So once I decide to do something, that's just kind of where I'm going to go. And I just have that approach to just be focused on it. So I think for me, it wasn't a question if I was going to enroll. It was just a matter of coming up with a plan and really just being disciplined. And I had a lot of conversations. Again, there were a lot of events that I was able to participate in to ask a lot of the questions. But I think what you have to ask yourself, are you ready for this journey? It's really something that you're going to have to decide if you're ready to make whatever sacrifice. And I think everybody's circumstances are slightly different. I knew I was going to have to make some sacrifices. I wasn't going to sleep as much. I was going to have no weekends. I was out of school for 20 plus years. So it's going to be harder for me to get back into this rigor. But like Christine said, it was all possible, but you really have to carve out the time and don't take for granted. Yes, the grades, you need to spend time with your cohort and get what you can out of the program because it does go quite fast, but you need to spend the time thinking about how you're going to approach a program. So our classes were Friday and Saturday, and I gave myself two things. When class was over on Saturday, I didn't do anything on Sunday, but just relax and recover from just whatever I had to do for that week. So that was my grace period. But every day I was literally probably doing homework. So I had a schedule, and I just had to make sure that I was, we were lucky. We had a very organized classmate named Monisha, and every week she would send, so for the first year, you all have the same classes together. So you're all together. Every week on Sunday, she would send the list of all the assignments that were due. So it was amazing having her. She was like our personal admin that was helping keep track of things. But, you know, for me, my husband was a huge support system for me because we had moved here maybe about a year before the program started, and we hadn't met a lot of neighbors, and they thought he was lying when he said he didn't have a wife. Like, I would literally surface. There would be days I wouldn't come outside. I mean, I want to be honest that it was intense and it was hard, but it was doable. It was doable. And when when you go back and you think about what you've all accomplished, it is such a proud moment for you to say that you've done it. And honestly, Liz, and probably the other ladies on the panel, I have no free time now, but yet somehow I managed to do an EMBA in 22 months. So I thought I was going to have all this free time when I was done. And you didn't have time, but you had to make time, I guess is the point. And if you are focused and disciplined, you'll find the time to carve out. So the other thing I did is I gave myself a treat. Every 2 weeks, I had to go get my manicure. It's not because I'm high maintenance, it's because that was my me time. That's the only thing I can afford to do. So I can afford to spend 30 minutes doing something special for myself. And I'll just highlight that while I don't have any children myself, we did have a couple of women deliver children. One delivered right before the resident period. So she was breastfeeding during the classes, but she had a support system and was finding ways to make the program work with her child. And then someone in my learning team, and this is the importance of the learning team, there's always going to be a time when you're not on your A game, and you're going to have to rely on your learning team to kind of help you get through it. So we had a classmate that delivered a baby, I think right at the beginning of our second year. And I think what was great about the program is she had full support from, her family, from the program, and from our team. So the good part is she was able to join a few of the sessions remotely. So that took off some of the stress because she also had to travel every week. But, our job was to make sure that she didn't fall behind and she was able to keep up with the assignments and the group work. So you're really going to have to lean on your cohort during these 2 years.
Yeah, Erica, thank you so much for sharing that. We really do have quite a large number of students, parents in the program every year, and it certainly adds to the complexity and the commitments. But like you've mentioned, it's really important to understand all of your commitments and prioritize how you're going to make that all work. And like you said, you find the time. You really you make it work if this is something that's really important to you. So we've talked a bit about your decisions to enroll and some of the anxiety and commitments that might have come along with that as you went through the process. But what did you anticipate taking away from an EMBA program in terms of your career and work? How would you describe the impact of the EMBA and Yale SOM, both personally and professionally, during the time you were in school and since? And how do you define the return on investment? And what was it for you? Jen, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to kick this one off. I was anticipating getting, like amazing professors and a rigorous like academic curriculum, expanding my network, but I way underestimated all of those things. And so I feel like, I mean, I think I said it in the intro, it was really a transformational experience for me. On a professional level, during the program, I ended up changing roles within my company at the time due to doing some of the work in a class that I took at Yale. And that was just, I was identifying what was important to me, where my values were, and the way I was spending my time. And I ended up changing my roles to bring those things into better alignment. It also gave me a lot more confidence because I had so much respect for all of my classmates and what brilliant people they were. And they helped me see some of the value in myself that I didn't know that I brought to the table. So that was very amazing for me. On a personal level, I also ended up relocating, as I mentioned earlier. So I was in Boston, now I'm down in South Carolina. and kind of aligning my whole life into more like values based. I brought more balance into my life. When I made the move, this was post graduation, I changed roles again to join a company that also I was very aligned with their mission. And so this has been a very common theme for me and trying to help make the world a better place for the future generations. And so that's something I definitely have started to do a lot more since I started the program. On the ROI, I think I'm very far from this being fully realized. I'm just kind of scratching the surface on the ROI, but I just remember even coming out of the first residency, year one, I went back to work with like a totally different perspective. I started speaking to people in a different way just from the stuff that I had learned in that first very intense period of school. So I think one of the things that is really cool about the EMBAs particularly is that you can bring what you learn in class on those weekends back into your work life immediately. So I feel that I would not be where I am personally or professionally today without this degree.
Thank you so much. How about Christine?
So when I applied to the program and wrote an essay, it cracks me up. I'm wondering what discussion went around. I think my essay was, I want to make healthcare better. I knew that I wanted to do something different. I knew that there was still impact that I wanted to make in healthcare, but I didn't know what that looked like. And part of going into this program was saying, hey, I'm going to keep an open mind and I'm going to see what's out there, right? This is going to be a new start, a new everything for me. If you had asked me, would I start up a company? I mean, theoretically, I started up my hospital medicine group. I, tell people retrospectively, I never saw that as a startup. It was just something to do. So I went in thinking that I would be joining a big healthcare, company in order to try and make healthcare better. It was through the first year, and it was pre-pandemic. And I think part of being at Yale is that what Jen was saying, people help you see yourself in a way that you maybe hadn't seen yourself otherwise. And it helps you gain confidence. And it became a point where we were talking with a small group of people, and all of a sudden I started to realize, well, healthcare is broken because everybody in healthcare has no incentive to change it. What if we came at it a different way and didn't go with what's already there and established and started something different? And so I decided late in my first year that I was going to start a healthcare company that brought acute hospital care to patients' homes. I read an article fortuitously at the time, started doing research, and then I really leaned into the startup entrepreneurship part of Yale. I regret that I hadn't actually thought about doing this earlier on because there's so many resources if you're looking to start up any type of company, not a healthcare company, that you really can take advantage of. So I only had the 1 year to kind of do that, but I did as much as I could. I took Jen McFadden's course, I got mentorship. I applied for some of the startup pitch competitions to get a little bit of early funding. I took as many startup finance classes as I could. So I really leaned into that. And so we started the company in the middle of the EMBA program. So I left my other organization at the end of 2020 and started up Origin Healthcare in January of 21. And of course, as you all know, again, like now we are in the middle of the pandemic. And as I laughingly tell people, I'm like, I'm not sure why my parents cheerleaded me on to leave a good paying job while I'm paying for tuition at school in the middle of a pandemic to bootstrap a company, but that's the joy of having an amazing family that support you through it. So as far as the financial ROI, we have not seen it yet because I am bootstrapping a healthcare startup company. We're now in 2 states as well. It's been a grind, and I'm happy to talk to you about startup life because that's also something that you need to really be super thoughtful of. But I don't think I would have done this if I hadn't been at Yale, because again, I had the resources in the community and the people that were cheering me on, and plenty of people to reach out to ask questions about the professors, people in my class. So if you are thinking of starting up a company, again, I'm happy to answer any questions on that. It is a very advantageous environment for you to be in at Yale.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really important to remember all of the resources and all of the people around in the community that can help you, and that you can bounce ideas off of, especially when you're starting something like that. So thank you, Christine. Erica, how about you?
Sure. So mine's probably a little bit more simple, but I really wanted to do the EMBA because I thought it would really crystallize the business acumen for me. I had done a lot of finance type activities, forecasting, trying to predict, what we're going to end up with our financial plans, but I didn't really know if I had the formalized way of training. It's kind of, I was learning it as I went with this company. And I also wanted to formalize my value to my company. So again, I was an expert in a very niche area. I was leading field operations, for either small projects, or ended up doing that globally. So the construction side of our business. But I wanted to branch out, and I really felt like the MBA would really help me shed out of that, what that perception of was me, and allow me to be seeing for new opportunities. Plus, it was something I wanted to do personally for many, many years. And I was also looking forward to being really more so being part of the Yale network and all the people that I would meet and connect with. I was really excited by that. Professionally, I was able to get promoted. I'll save the second part for that later. But I was promoted probably twice in the role, and I got thrust into some really new strategic programs in a job that never existed. So I'm the first one to do it. But I think most importantly, I made some lifelong friends. And I think that was what's most important to me, and the connections, right? I think that the return on investment for me was the network and the friends I made to the program. The experience is beyond words. It was incredible. And I feel like you can't ever put a price on what you got out of it from that. But of course, professionally, the women that are on the call today, your job might want to know, what are you going to get out of it? And I read, what Jen said earlier and what Christine said. I mean, you're going to start thinking differently immediately. You're going to talk different. You're going to think different. You also have so many different perspectives from your classmates that you learn. And then off the bat, you'll start to think about, oh, well, this case study that we did really relates to a problem that you have in school. And then in some cases, I mean, the faculty is so wonderful. Sometimes you can go and talk to them about some of the challenges at work, and they're always willing to help you solve problems. So, you'll have aha moments where you have parallels with what you just learned in class with an issue that you see in work today. So I think the ROI is there. But for me, I think the benefit that I really got out of it was really the network and the friendships, the lifelong friendships.
Thank you, Erica. I love that so much. And on that note, I've heard you each bring up a bit already about our community and our mission. And that's because those are two things that are really, really important to us here at SOM and in the EMBA program. And we often say that we learn just as much from our classmates as we do from the curriculum. Can you share a little bit more about who makes up this community? Who are your classmates, your learning teams, and your faculty? And do you have any quick stories or instances of how this community and SOM's mission of educating leaders for business and society shaped your overall experience in the program? Jen, what do you think?
Yeah, I was really blown away by the quality of all of the classmates that I met, and the learning team. I mean, so many people have talked about this, but I feel like especially in the first year, this is kind of your first cohort that you're a part of, and you spend so much time together in the trenches. They really become like very close to you. You guys support one another when one person might be busy, the rest of the team can kind of take on more of the lift. And it just kind of rotates between everyone in terms of what's going on in their own work and personal lives. So the community that you get to be a part of is so special. And now I have this huge network to lean on for support, advice, and expertise, which is very cool. And then in terms of the mission, this, to educate leaders for business and society is something that really struck a chord with me. And I think I kind of just mentioned this in the last question, but I've changed jobs a couple times since starting Yale to better align how I'm spending my time with missions that I truly believe in. So something that really solidified for me when I was going through the program.
Thank you. Christine.
I resonate with with everything that Jen and Erica have said. I think by far the best thing about going to Yale will be the people that you meet. Your class, you will make lifelong friends. Our learning team from the second year, we still get together every month, every other month. We call it our BOD, Board of Directors. Everyone will start telling you, hey, make sure you get your personal board of directors in your life, right? So when things come up, you have people to bounce things off of that can be a sounding board that can help reflect. And our team is the BOD, and we get together, and we're now, years out. Let's not do the math on that, but we're years out from when we graduated, and we're still really close with each other. And when something comes up, we're all stepping in and saying, hey, can we all get together for a call really quick? Even if it's just a couple of us that can show up on the call. Our class still has a WhatsApp channel where probably every week someone is, chatting something, a trip they've been on, or someone when they've traveled to another state, they've hooked up with a classmate together. So there's all of this connection that will be there forever for you. I actually had a couple of classmates help get our startup off the ground by believing in us and funding us. And, that's obviously not expected, but a super huge benefit of just having people around you that believe in you. The professors are great. I think you'll love being in the EMBA track because quite frequently we get the professors saying how they like teaching us instead of the full times because we got their jokes and we knew context. So you'll love your professors. You'll see them out. They'll drink beers with you. They'll go out on hikes with you. They're super approachable for anything that you need now or in the future. So your classmates for sure, but the whole community there is worth it. And I would say the tagline about business for society and business, you sometimes wonder whether those are just taglines. It was ingrained into everything at Yale. It's not just a tagline. Your classmates, when they're to Jen's point, when they're thinking about their career, you don't hear people saying, oh, I want to make the next 100K or I want to make the next. Everyone is talking about like what they're doing and how it is impacting the greater society, their community, what it is they want to do. It's really inspiring to be around. And so it is something that is actually lived while you're there.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love that you have your board of directors still. And I really do hear from a lot of our alums about how they keep in touch and really rely on their classmates still as they're dealing with issues at work or going through changes, and they're your sounding board, and they really understand what it was like to go through the program and gain those same skills. So thank you for sharing. So switching gears a little bit, negotiation skills and being comfortable with difficult conversations is an area where many women want to grow their confidence. When it comes to negotiation, what are some lessons you've learned through your career? And what would you say about the curriculum that elevated your ability to negotiate and engage in difficult conversations? Erica, would you take that one?
Yeah, thanks. So we actually do have some classes on negotiation. It's a really great teacher, Dalian. He's a very charismatic person. So you're going to get some training from him on negotiations. But I think more importantly, I think everyone on this call are probably in very prestigious roles, and you may be one of only a handful of women. So it's always going to be difficult to have conversations, negotiations, maybe being one that's perceived to be difficult. But, I found myself in a situation where I just mentioned that I was promoted twice. Unfortunately, there were some changes. Well, there was changes in our company, and my boss at the time was exited. And I will give a plug to my learning team because I found out 3 days before that I had to present to the CFO and CEO, and my team was like, I got your back. We'll catch up with you later. Right. So that's going back to the community piece. But I ended up getting new direct reports from I had new global employees working for me. But when I stepped into my old boss's role, I realized, am I making the same money? And they gave me some very measly, upgrade, but I was going from it was still a significant role, but now I was leading an entire strategy. So when I did the very first performance connections with my new employees, I happened to notice that every man that was working for me was making more money. So I said, oh, well, this isn't going to work. So I consulted with actually one of my buddies who was in my class. And I said, well, how do you think I should approach this? And we kind of walked through the strategy of what I needed to say. And I said, and I think the part why I was a little bit apprehensive is we were going through some downsizing and restructuring. And I felt like I would be bothering them. That was my initial thought, that I would be bothering them if I asked for something, or maybe I was gonna, be looked upon negatively. So she got me out of my own way and says, no, you deserve it. You're taking over this role. It's a huge opportunity for you and you need to be paid for it. So we played the scenario a little bit, she and I. And then when I went to the office, I spoke to my boss, who happens to be a woman, and I explained to her the situation. And within 30 days, they gave me the appropriate pay required for my job. So I think, my classmates, I don't know that I would have been able to I'm not going to talk to HR in my company, right? But there were people I could speak to within my cohort that really helped give me the confidence and even helped me role play exactly how I would say it. So I no doubt would at least get my point across.
Erica, thank you so much for sharing. And I'm so glad that you had people that you could go to and rely on to help you through some of those conversations as well. Jen, anything to add there?
Yeah, really love that story, Erica. That's awesome. I would say a couple lessons that I learned in my career is you're probably not going to get it if you don't ask for it. And most men do this much more often and much more aggressively than most women. So it was something that I felt was like lacking from I was not comfortable having these conversations, particularly when it comes to salary and bonuses, but just difficult conversations in general. So I would say the negotiations class helped me tremendously in my ability to be able to evaluate like the whole scope of an opportunity and to be able to assess which of those levers can be pulled. And there were a lot of other courses throughout the curriculum that focused on some more interpersonal skills. And that also helped to shape the way that I approach difficult conversations, including negotiations. So I've actually, taken this into practice. And when negotiating at the last time I started a job, I was very happy with the outcome. And you guys, if you end up applying, will learn what this means. But I ran into our negotiations instructor several months later and I said, Dalian, I found their tree.
I love that, Jen. Thank you. So quick final lightning round question for all three of you, if you wouldn't mind. What would be one piece of advice that you would give to women or anyone considering an EMBA at the Yale School of Management? Christine, do you want to give us a quick answer to that? What do you think?
Do not hold yourself back. Like it will be transformational. You absolutely, if you're thinking about it, you absolutely should do it.
Thank you. Erica?
Yeah, simple. Just do it. Just try, just do it. And the team will be there to support you.
Great. Jen, what do you think?
Yeah, I have very similar sentiment. This is like one of the best things I've ever done in my whole life. So, try and find people who have gone through it or are currently going through it and start having conversations. But it's amazing. So I definitely encourage it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think we have a couple of minutes left to answer some questions from some of our attendees. So Christine, you talked a little bit already about some of the resources that we had, and anyone please feel free to answer this, but who or what resources helped you throughout the program to, in your case with your startup, but in general with your career?
So there is a wealth of startup opportunities there. There's Sci-City that's actually located, that's a part where a bunch of startup founders or startup people, like even if you're thinking of starting up a company, you can just go. It wasn't actually open when we were there. I think they were, but you can go get resources, meet other people. There are classes. Professor McFadden and others do a class. It's called a Startup Founders Practicum. So if you have an idea, they actually pair you with a mentor And it's a year-long program where they'll bring different people in from different aspects of business that you get to meet. You meet with your mentor and you have goals set to sort of make yourself accountable if you're going to be doing your startup. Song Ma has this amazing startup class or startup finance class. What I think, just to give you an idea if it hasn't been clear, is you can actually take other classes outside of your structured classes that you have to do. You can do electives. You can actually audit some of the classes. So I did Professor A.J. Wasserstein's small and medium business class right towards the end. I know that he has an entrepreneurship by acquisition class that I think the classmates that did it just love it. So many classes out there, but also since I've left, I know that they've really built up the innovation arm with Josh coming in and creating a whole, one of my classmates, Amy Kundrat, is part of that team now. So they're really leaning into startup entrepreneurship and not only supporting the people that are in Yale, but alumni outside. So there is a wealth of resources available for you out there.
Great. Thank you so much, Christine. So another question that came in, were there any unexpected challenges or surprises about the program or your work-life balance with school involved that you wish you had thought about or known beforehand?
It was
Okay,
just
smiling.
hard.
Yeah.
No, I'm just laughing because I realized I did not remember how difficult probability was for me. So if it hadn't been for Nils, I was on the phone with him like at all hours, calling, struggling to do the homework. So I mean, yeah, I hated probability and I was so happy for that class to be done. But no, I think it's so hard to expect something you've never experienced, but I would say that that was the hardest class for me, but I got through it and I had a network to help me. Plus I had statistics that counted for the other 50%. So that was helpful. No, I think there was nothing surprising. I think that was the beauty of it. I didn't have expectations and I just I knew it would be hard, right? Don't get me wrong, but I didn't have any, benchmark or baseline to say this is going to be harder than XYZ, right? I just kind of tried to manage it and not become overwhelmed with the task and stay organized as best as I could.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I think we have time for one final question. So is there anything you wish you had done or taken more advantage of while you were in the program and here at SOM? And I think anyone, if you had anything, Jen.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. So it's awesome to hear that Christine took advantage of so many of these other opportunities to take classes. I wish I had done more. So my first year was 2020, so it was during COVID. And at that time, we were open to take classes online, which was really huge for folks who were living outside the area. But then everything became in person in the second year. And I wish I had just made the effort to come to campus on some other days, so that I could have taken advantage of some of the electives, because it's such an incredible opportunity to be able to sit in on these classes. So I definitely would not sleep on that.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. And Jen, Erica, Christine, thank you all so much for being here today. I love hearing and learning more about you, and I think your experiences and your stories has been very helpful for all of our attendees here today. I just want to send a quick reminder to our attendees as well that we have a number of other webinars coming up on the application. We have another Ask an EMBA webinar in our series coming up in February, which will feature some of our current students. So if you'd like to hear another perspective there, please sign up for that. On-campus information sessions that our panelists have mentioned is another great way to learn about the program. So we really do hope to see you soon. And as always, please reach out to us on the admissions team, emba.admissions@yale.edu, if we weren't able to get to any of your questions today, or if you have anything for us. Thank you again so much, all three of you, for your time today. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank
Good luck,
you.
everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
luck,
Thank you.
everybody. Bye.